There's a very specific reason why almost every major camera leak you see online is blurry, pixelated, or poorly lit. It isn't because the person taking the photo has shaky hands or a bad camera. It is intentional camouflage. Camera manufacturers like Sony run incredibly sophisticated internal security pipelines designed to track down leaks based on microscopic details that the average person would never notice. They look for unique blemish signatures, tiny scuffs on the housing, specific serial engravings on the sensor mount, or even the way light reflects off prototype paint. If a reviewer or a factory worker leaks a clear photo, Sony can trace it back to the exact individual and issue a massive lawsuit or NDA breach. That is why the blurry leak has become a ritual. It is a survival tactic in the high-stakes game of tech secrecy. But today we got lucky. A new source has stepped out of the shadows and provided something we almost never see this early in the cycle: high-resolution images of the upcoming Sony A7V. These aren't the grainy, Bigfoot-style photos we're used to. These are clear enough to let us dissect the design philosophy, confirm the rumors, and finally answer the question everyone has been asking. Is the A7V just a copy-paste of the A7V, or is it something entirely new? In this video, we are going to tear these images apart, pixel by pixel, to validate the leaks, expose the design secrets, and prepare you for what might be the most important camera release of the year. Let's start with the front of the camera, because this is where the identity of the A7V is revealed. The core silhouette is undeniably familiar. It inherits the industrial design language of the Sony A7V almost perfectly. We see the same textured grips stippling, the same slope on the lens mount crown, and the same aggressive, angular prism housing. This confirms what earlier leakers like Andrea Pizzini have been suggesting. Sony is standardizing their body design across the lineup. This is good news for ergonomics. The deep grip of the A7V is universally loved, and bringing that to the mid-range A7V is a massive upgrade from the shallower grip of the A7 IV. Zooming in on the control layout, we can spot the signature C2 custom button right next to the shutter release. The font matching on the record icon is precise, consistent with Sony's recent shifts in typography. But the most telling detail is the dial architecture. We see the dedicated still/movie/S and Q subdial sitting underneath the main mode dial. This was a feature introduced on the A7 IV and refined on the A7RV, and its presence here confirms that the A7V is positioning itself as a true hybrid workhorse, designed for creators who switch between photo and video constantly. Moving to the rear of the camera, the articulation mechanism is the star of the show. The images show a 4-axis multi-angle LCD screen. This is the holy grail of camera screens. It flips out for vloggers, but it also tilts up and down for photographers who want to stay behind the lens without dealing with the swing-out arm. The fact that this premium mechanism is making its way to the A7V proves that Sony isn't holding back features for the flagship models anymore. They know the market is competitive, and they're throwing everything they have into this body. However, there is a curious detail missing. On the A7RV, there are subtle markings near the multi-function control wheel that label firmware toggles and HDMI output status. In these leaked images, those marks are absent or slightly altered. This could mean a few things. It could be a pre-production unit with unfinished silk screening. Or, more likely, it suggests that the A7V will have a more simplified, streamlined interface compared to the high-resolution R series. It hints at a camera designed for speed and ease of use, rather than deep, methodical menu diving. The hot shoe is another point of contention. Early, blurry leaks showed a strange, layered cover on the hot shoe, which led to wild speculation about new accessories. These new high-res images show a standard multi-interface shoe. The layered look in the old photos was likely just a protective cover used during transport to hide the contacts. This is a classic example of how low-quality leaks can fuel misinformation. Seeing it clearly now brings us back to reality. It's a standard Sony Mi shoe, likely supporting 4-channel digital audio, which is fantastic for video shooters. Let's talk about the ecosystem context, because no camera exists in a vacuum. Canon recently dropped the EOS R6 Mark III, and Nikon is pushing hard with the Z6 III. The market is crowded. By leaking these images now, right as the holiday shopping season ramps up, Sony is making a strategic move. They want to chum the waters. They want you to hesitate before buying that Canon. They want you to see the A7V and think, maybe I should wait. The expected price point of around $3,000 places it squarely in the flagship territory for enthusiasts. It is an investment, not an impulse buy. One interesting sidebar in a leak world is the recent circulation of DJI Osmo Pocket 4, images showing a dual lens setup. Those were quickly debunked as likely AI-generated fakes, but they serve as a warning. We have to be critical. In the case of these A7V images, the mechanical details, the screws, the hinge joints, the texture of the rubber, look physically grounded. They don't have the weird, dreamlike smoothness of AI. This adds a layer of credibility that is hard to fake. Ultimately, these images validate the evolution, not revolution theory for the A7 versus body. It isn't a radical new shape. It is a refined, perfected version of what works. It suggests that the real revolution is going to be inside. The sensor, the autofocus, and the processing power. The body is just the vessel. We are still missing shots of the bottom and the port doors, which would confirm the cooling system and connectivity options. But for now, we have enough to know that the A7V is real, it is imminent, and it is built to work. If you are as hyped for this camera as I am, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. We're going to be going live on December 2nd at 8 a.m. to cover the official announcement with a panel of veteran shooters. We will break down every spec, every feature, and help you decide if this is the upgrade you have been waiting for. Share this video with your camera nerd friends so they don't buy the wrong gear this Christmas, and hit the bell so you don't miss the live stream. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. The decision to reuse the A7RV body for the A7V is the smartest move Sony could make. That chassis is near perfect. The 4-axis screen solves the photographer versus vlogger war that has plagued the A7 series for years. By standardizing the body, Sony saves on manufacturing costs, which hopefully allows them to pour more budget into the sensor and processor. It also makes transitioning between bodies seamless for pros who carry multiple cameras. It's boring, maybe, but it's practical and professional.